Good evening, everyone. I'm Deputy Inspector Morello, Commanding Officer of the 34th Precinct. I'd like to thank everyone who came here tonight on your own time to participate with us. It's a very important thing, the community participating with the precinct. It's always important, but I think it's important now more than ever in light of some events that have gone on around the country, the negative events between police and communities. So I really do appreciate each and every one of you coming here on your own time to work with us tonight. And that's one of the reasons we have our officers here with us tonight. You see so many officers here. They're part of the pilot program that we're very lucky to be rolling out. We're one of only 4 precincts in the city to be rolling this pilot program out. And I'm going to talk about that more in a little while. I'm going to introduce these officers to you. Right now, I'd just like to talk about crime, give our report for the last 4 weeks. In this recent 28-day period, we've seen crime increase by 15%. In the 34th Precinct, we have 106 index crimes or major felonies versus 92 during the same time last year. That's, of course, the bad news. Always start with the bad news and get to the better news, I say. So the good news is that arrests for these major felonies are up dramatically. While we have an increase of increase in crime of 15%, we have an increase in arrests for those crimes of 67%. So while we're taking more major crimes than we used to, robberies, felony assaults, burglaries, we're arresting perpetrators at a much greater rate than we did last year. And I'll talk about a few of those noteworthy arrests right now. For example, last week on Thursday at 547 186th Street, at about 6 a.m., we had a robbery of a FedEx worker. He was getting ready for work, he was in his uniform, and he was approached by 2 males who asked for his cell phone. And when he refused, they hit him in the head with a bottle, and they took his cell phone. Now, it's a great thing that we're a part of the pilot program because we have some technology that we would not have had in the past. So when the officers responded to the scene within minutes, they asked the man if he had to find my phone app, which he said he did. So we have these new tablets in every patrol car that we have in the 34th Precinct. As I said, we're one of only 4 precincts to have these tablets. So they immediately entered his email address into the tablet, and they began tracking the phone, and it popped up that it was over the bridge in the Bronx at 165 in Ogden. So several of our units went over the bridge, and the beeps started getting closer to the RMP, that's the patrol car, until 2 individuals who fit the description were seen, and the officers got out, approached those men. They were very calm about it because to them, they weren't going to be suspects for anything. They were in another borough, so no one knew what they just did. So they were found to have 2 cell phones on them. One, of course, the guy said was his, and one belonged to his friend. So when they went back to the police car and hit the alert button, one of those cell phones immediately started to beep and vibrate and go into alert mode. I think it was at that point that the perpetrator knew that he was done for. So those 2 guys were arrested, and I'm glad to report they're still in jail. They were both arrested for robbery and assault of that individual. We were lucky enough that morning to have the police commissioner visit us last Thursday, because on that same day, as he was coming in, the perpetrators were being brought in, so it made us look really good, I gotta tell you. But he stopped by because that was the day they happened to be distributing these cell phones, the new smartphones, to every officer in the 34th Precinct. So that's another thing that our officers have that they would not have had we not been part of the pilot program. So every officer now has a smartphone where he has access to all the computer databases that he would have had to go back to the precinct to access. So as officers are going to a job, which could be in your building, they could put the address into the phone and they could get all the information about that building. If there's someone wanted for a crime in that building, they're going to get that photo before they even get out of the police car to go into that building. So the technology that we're getting is finally catching up to 2015. So it really is a good thing to be part of this pilot program and have this technology, and the officers are using it and making great arrests with it immediately. Another thing I'd like to tell you about was an unfortunate incident that happened on Friday night, but also some good police work that came out of it. 3 persons were shot on Friday evening at about 9:15 around 207th Street and 10th Avenue. A male got off the train with his girlfriend and was approached by 3 males, and words were exchanged. And those 3 individuals ended up being shot by this perpetrator who was with his girlfriend. Some of the officers that are here did some amazing police work, including Lieutenant Tom, my special ops lieutenant in the back there, big guy in the t-shirt, bald guy. He did a really great job following up on this crime. They responded immediately. They got a very good description of the perpetrator. They started accessing video on 207th Street and 10th Avenue. They started talking to people on the street. They found out that a possible perpetrator ran into 3758 10th Avenue. They got the video and they got pictures of this person immediately. They went to that building. They were just setting up to do an entire search of the building, and they ran into the individual. They debriefed the individual, found out what he did with the firearm. So we got the perpetrator, who was the shooter, and we got the firearm immediately. Then as they looked at video, they saw that the reason this person shot these 3 people was because he was being assaulted by this group of 3. So based on that video, they locked up our shooting victims as well, because they started the assault that led to the shooting. So the individuals who started the incident were arrested. The individual who had the illegal gun and subsequently shot those individuals were arrested. But it was really some amazing police work by some of the officers that are here. So I'm honored to be able to tell that story every time I'm in front of people, because they just give me fantastic stories to tell. Something we talked about last time we had a meeting with dirt bikes. I know that's always a concern. These quads, these dirt bikes that ride around the neighborhoods. And I think the last time we got together, I told you that we had taken 7 so far this year. I'm glad to report that now we're up to 20 dirt bikes confiscated in the 34th Precinct. So we've gotten 13 more since we last met a month ago. It's something the officers are working on each tour. It's a difficult problem to tackle, because every time we try to engage, we have to do so safely to make sure we don't begin a pursuit that winds up worse than had we not engaged. But the officers are doing it in a safe way, and they've been quite successful at it. So a total of 20 dirt bikes off the street this year. Another thing we talk a lot about is noise. Noise from nightclubs, noise from cars, noise from car radios. And last time I mentioned that it's something that we're focusing on again. So I'll report that in the last 28 days, we have 93 summonses for unreasonable noise versus just 34 during the same 28-day period last year. So we have increased.
Where?
Throughout the 34th precinct, throughout the entire precinct. It's an increase of 173% in this recent 28-day period. And we're going to continue that. It's something that we talk a lot about, and something that the officers are focused on. Now I'd just like to talk a little about the pilot program, which you've obviously heard me mention. The neighborhood-based policing model is what it's called. And the idea behind this is that the same officers patrol the same neighborhoods each day. A key to that is the neighborhood coordination officers, who I'll introduce in a minute. These are 8 of the best officers that we have in the 34th Precinct. They were chosen because of their accomplishments. And they're going to be my eyes and ears into these sectors, if you will. The precinct is divided up into 4 sectors, and each of them has a steady sector. Each pair of officers has a steady sector. Furthermore, each time sector teams go out, the same officers are now assigned to the same sectors. So that, I think there's several positive effects to this. I think the community gets to know the officers that are in their particular sector, in their particular neighborhood. And the officers take more ownership of the area, because they're getting to know the people that they're policing. They're not getting a different assignment each day. They're not going to be in the northern section up in, say, Inwood Hill Park one day, and then down on St. Nick the next day. That's not how it works anymore in the 34th Precinct. Same officers patrol the same areas. It helps me as a commander, because I know who's in that particular area. So when I get an email from a community resident that, let's just say, maybe this weekend I got emails about a lot of people in Inwood Hill Park, I know the officers who are out there at, say, 7 p.m., 8 p.m. So I know exactly who I can forward that off to, and I know exactly who's going to be working on that problem. So on that note, I'm going to introduce a few of the officers and tell you what area they're in. I'll make it easy. I'll start off with Sector Adam. Sector Adam is everything east of Broadway, from 179th all the way basically up to 193rd. And it wraps around Fort George Hill and goes all the way to the water. So it's everything basically east of Broadway up to 193rd is the simplest way I could describe it. Sector Adam's NCOs are here. It's Detective Tom Trotman and Officer Edwin Rodriguez. Sitting here?
He's on vacation, sir.
Okay, he's not here. Tom Trotman is here. Detective Tom Trotman.
That's a big area. Big area.
Tom's a new guy in the NYPD. He only has, what, Tom, 27 years on, something like that? Yeah. He's a rookie, but we're going to have him do the best he can.
How long in the 34th?
What's that?
How long in the 34th?
Full time in the 34th, Tom?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think he knows the area the entire time.
That's what I thought, he's familiar.
But not everybody is as much a veteran as that. I have some junior officers there too, chosen because for their accomplishments. Now, if you go west of Broadway, you have Sector Boyd that runs basically from the start of the precinct at 179 up to all the way up to, I believe it is Riverside. It includes most of the park. I have Officer Polster and Officer Lahorn. Polster is formerly a park officer, and Keisha Lahorn was formerly a school and youth officer. Both did a fantastic job with their assignments. That's why they were chosen. Sector Charlie has some tough boundaries for me to give you. It runs along Broadway for a while, then it makes a right on Dykeman, goes up along Sherman, turns on 207th Street. It's kind of a zigzag sector, but it's a lot east of Sherman. And I have two very senior officers, Officer Nunez and Officer Johnson, are going to be the NCOs there. And then, of course, we have Sector David, which is west of that, west of Sherman. It encompasses Dykeman Street and everything north, and runs along Sherman as well, and along 207th Street and everything north of that. So I guess you could call it the northwest part of the precinct. That's going to be Officers Guzman and De La Cruz. And what these officers are going to do is a little different from what the rest of the sector officers are doing. These guys have the freedom to change their tour each day. They're not locked into one tour. So they can work whatever tour they need to work. When we have meetings, you're going to see them at meetings. If there's a meeting in their sector, if there's a meeting in Sector David, you're going to see De La Cruz and Guzman at that meeting. If there's a problem in Sector David that I have to have someone address, these are the first guys I'm going to go to. We're still going to, of course, depend on the sector officers to address it as well, but they're really going to be the keys to the neighborhoods. And they're always going to be in those neighborhoods. And I think it's really going to pay off. I have Sergeant Juan Hernandez is going to supervise all of the NCOs. He's the NCO sergeant. He's another guy with about 25 years on the job. And Lieutenant Tom will, of course, supervise the entire project. He's the Special Operations Lieutenant.